My name is Ash Singh. How you doing?
Ash, great to meet you. I'm Neil from the Neuron team. I'd love to tell you about our business. We're integrating flying objects into the future airspace. We have a collaborative network, which is going to usher in the digital era of aviation. So our Internet of Things sensors ingest aircraft data, positional data, fuse it in the back end, and produce a single source of truth for everything in the sky that enables safe flight for all aircraft. This we offer as a surveillance as a service, as we call it, like a software as a service, where the user only pays for the data they use and the sensor operators get paid for their data. So it's a two-sided market. So far, traction, we have 630,000 US dollars of government grants, 3 angel investors, and partnerships with Amy, the world's leading asset manager, Atkins, world-leading services provider, and Cerium, the world-leading data provider in the aviation space. We're asking for 700,000 US dollars at a valuation of $7 million in order to deploy to our global tipping points, which we're seeing around the world, to accelerate our product development because we need to move fast on this amazing opportunity and to gain really widespread customer adoption. Can I invite you to go with me for a coffee and discuss this further?
Absolutely. Excellent, Neil. Thank you for that. Now, you used words that have changed since the last pitch, correct?
Quite a lot.
We used the word surveillance as a service, correct?
Yes, that's the service we're offering.
Which helps, right? So that's a new word, and I really like that because it kind of understands. And then you also brought up how the marketplace is really mapped out, because you have the surveillance companies, okay, which is kind of a scary word, but telcos, basically, people that have, right? Is that right? You have the surveillance, right? The surveillance companies, and then you have people that need to send shipments in a safe manner, correct?
Correct.
Right? You actually have what would you call them? These are your customers, right? The customers.
These are drone operators, manufacturers doing operations, deliveries, inspections, blue light services, you name it, many, many use cases.
Now, let me ask a question, Neil. Is this a product, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm wondering, right? And so this is really fascinating. So basically, for everyone else that's joining us, the platform is really interesting because basically you're doing air traffic control for drone level stuff. So I believe if you mentioned last time, it's anything from like 10 feet all the way up to like 100 or 200 or 300 feet. Is that correct?
You know, the amazing thing is, Ash, we're going to do the drones, then we're going to do the air taxis, then the regional electric aircraft, then we're just going to do the whole stack. So we're going to digitize the whole airspace.
Yes. But just so everyone else knows, your air traffic control is basically what, 300 feet and down? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it's the layer currently between the commercial aircraft and the ground.
Okay. And so you talked about air taxis and all this stuff. My question to you, Neil, is this a product that every government is going to need?
This is a product that every country that wants to fly drones, which is every country, is going to need. In simpler societies like in Africa, where they had less busy skies, they've got going by just keeping aircraft out of the way. In busy cities, like you can imagine in Toronto, New York, London, there's going to be a lot of things in the sky, so they really need to deconflict these services. And the really unique thing about our platform is we're not saying we're Amazon or Google, we're setting up and we're competing with everybody else. Everybody joins our community, and we're just a thin interface at the back end that shares the data and keeps everybody safe. So the more successful we are, the bigger our community grows.
I understand. But my question to you, Neil, is about explaining what the system actually is, okay? And the reason I look at that is when I think about the future in your success, Neil, right? Okay? Right. The way I see it, and again, I'm unbiased, right? When we talk, it's somebody who has a completely different background, and I'm not a pilot, but when I see your product, I see you as a white solution for every government that needs to do traffic, right? Just like in today's world, the lights, the traffic lights and all that stuff is managed by the municipalities, correct? Cities.
Correct.
And so what you're saying is you have the surveillance people as your customers, as the people you pay, right? These are the people you pay. You have the drone operators, but your ultimate your ultimate boss might be governments. Is that correct? Eventually, that's what
Well,
it's going
I think that's a simple way of putting it. Yeah, it's an understandable way of putting it because this will always be a regulated industry, so it will
to.
always
Yes,
come under the Civil Aviation Authority. The
yes,
reality, we will probably speak to councils and municipalities to get services going. But yeah, it's a service for the country, but it's a service for the country that will be provided not just commercially, but actually on a community basis. So it's a
of
community of
course.
all the stakeholders.
Yes. So the reason I bring this up is because when you're positioning your product, when I look at it, the question for me, when I think about your product, and again, you've used a fair word, and I've done this purposely, Neil, is you said, Ash, it's a simple way of looking at it, right? As I
Right.
just described it. Let's assume that no one's a pilot, no one's done air. I've actually uh, gone in air traffic control, and it's a lot of fun, but I don't think most investors have had the time to go hang out with air traffic control people. I've done it for the United Nations. It's a lot of fun to hear what they're doing. But my point, though, is this: when I think about your product, okay, it's about telling the story around the current world, every municipality, state, civil aviation. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry to manage the roads, okay? Manage the traffic on the roads. What you're doing is you are going to be the white label solution for all the governments of the future for air traffic control in the sky. Okay, air taxis, drone shipments, all of these components. You got the technology. You want to get the first pilot done in the UK, right? And get
Correct.
that going. And just putting that together, understanding that if you are a white label solution for governments, and the air traffic control must be a multi-billion-dollar industry just for roads and cars and trucks and all that stuff. And if you are that person and your job is simply to go around the world and get paid pilots, right? Pardon the pun, by the way, because it's not the flying pilot, the paid pilot to explore and create that ecosystem, right? So the government of Singapore, for instance, they have a civil aviation authority, and I've connected with them in the past. You would go to them and say, "Hey, eventually you need to be ready for this, okay?
Hmm.
And we've done all this work. We want to work underneath you. We want the government contract to manage this process for you, and we do all the stakeholder management and everything. And we want to have a 20-year agreement with you for the next 20 years for Singapore, the city of Singapore, city state of Singapore." Is that correct, Neil?
Exactly that. I know Kaz very well. I know Kevin Shum, the Director General. I've done a
Okay.
number of projects with him, and
Yes.
they're drone ready. They just need this missing component. They've even got
Yes.
the unmanned traffic management ready, but until they can safely separate the aircraft, they're not ready to go. And they want to be the first mover, so that the market is this. That's what I call a tipping point. They're absolutely waiting for us.
And governments are talking about air taxis like in Dubai.
Dubai will be a first mover for air taxis. Definitely, they're so keen.
Right?
That's really going to happen.
But they need you. What you're doing is it makes a lot of money. It's a long-term game. Again, it's so unsexy, but it's amazing, right, Neil? Right?
It's so unsexy that it becomes sexy because when you do it, everybody needs it.
Exactly. So that's what I want to position. So tell me about the standard traffic control industry. How big is that market? And how big is the air traffic control going to be if you replicate that for the air?
So it's in the tens of billions of US dollars already. I mean, the FAA, which is maybe 5% globally, turns over maybe 15, $20 billion a year. So you can scale that up, so 20x that. Obviously, other countries are less developed or rich or busy, but that gives you an indication. You're probably pushing 100 billion if we look at it all in. But what I would really say is, why don't we use the third dimension an awful lot more than we do? Our roads are congested, our train lines are slow and very old. We've got this third dimension that we can put so much more through. And with renewable electric energy, why wouldn't we do that? So that it's not really the capacity we've got, it's the capacity we can create to move things differently and allow people to operate differently. Maybe only come into the office once a week or once a fortnight. Maybe just dial up something on your phone and then it comes to you. You don't even need to go and pick it up via a drone, or it could even be an autonomous robot. It doesn't even need to be in the air. Technology still works.
Yeah, and I think that's a good conversation to have when they invite you for your pitch, because that's a nice that's a 10-minute dreaming of where the future is, okay? But for
Think
the
of
1 minute,
autonomous cars, same thing. You know,
yes,
they're still going to have,
absolutely.
still going to avoid each other. So it's a
Yes,
much wider play once we get into it.
yes, absolutely. So what I want to do is, how much money do you need for this now? You're looking at how
So
much
for
money?
the next 12 months, where we have a very detailed roadmap, 24 milestones, 11
Yes.
deliverables, we would need 700,000 US dollars, and that's an accelerated program over and above what we're already committed to. And as I mentioned, we have grant funding committed already.
And you want to start driving these paid pilots as I've described with governments. That's part of your roadmap, right? Is that what you know?
We're lining them up now as fast as we can take the orders. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. So there's a lot of interest here. Okay. And my last question is how profitable is this if you get this going in a market, right? In the next 5-10 years, when things move, tell me a little bit about the unit economics. How much money are we going to make?
So at a unit level, we would charge approximately $1.30 for every drone flight, which is a reasonable amount to make your flight safe.
Sure.
Our 5-year forecast says we're going to turn over just under $500 million within 5 years, and that's on conservative estimates of drones, and it's a 13% market share. If it really works, then you have to multiply up that market share accordingly. So it's big bucks if we get adoption.
Yes. So my last point, and I want to pitch your idea back to you, Neil, right? Is we talked about governments, right? And I want to build this angle in because there's a clear idea of the $20 to $100 billion market on traffic control, as you've described. Basically, if I understand this correctly, again, from a simplicity perspective, and I think we brought this up in the last session, is you are basically the digital toll, okay, for the sky. Is that correct?
That's a great way of describing it.
Okay. And that's what I'm going to pitch you today, because that's what people are really interested in. Everyone knows how, if you have a toll, you're the toll operator, right? And so what we're going to do, so I'm going to hit the top. Neil, you get to be whoever you want, okay? You can be British royalty if you don't like that. Branson. All right. I get to pitch to Branson. Yes. All right. Neil, over to you. Mr. Branson, please introduce yourself.
Ash, great to see you here at Virgin headquarters. How can I help you?
Yes, great, Sir Branson. Thank you for making the time. My name is Ash Singh, and I'm part of the Neuron team. As you might know, you've done a lot of investments in space, but when we think about the future, we think about deliveries. We think about traffic congestion and how we now have to use the sky. Use the sky for shipping stuff, use the sky for air taxis. What we've been doing, we have a team of people that have decades of experience in terms of air traffic control. And what we're doing is we've provided an advanced algorithm where we can be the future toll operator, okay, for drone shipments and taxi services, air taxi services in any municipality. We've already got some traction on this, and we call it a surveillance as a service model, where we take a small fee, right? $1.30 for every transaction that's happening, and we monitor it. We give a little bit of money for the people that are providing us with the data, like the telcos. We get the drone operators to pay us some money, and we package all of this in a clean way, in a safe way, in a profitable way for municipalities and governments for us to operate. We've got some traction here in London, and we're aiming to get $700,000 to get some pilots going in major cities like Dubai and Singapore. Mr. Branson, I know that you love space, but I think we can make a lot more money just getting the traffic control and being the toll operator for the skies on Earth. Would love to chat to you a little bit more over a coffee, please.
Would love to have that conversation, Ash.
All right. So, Neil, that's what I tried to bring these components in. These are things that you might not have mentioned, but that's what I was going towards, right? The investor wants to give you money to be the future toll owner, the air traffic control toll owner of municipalities all over the world. And hopefully that person has the right government connections too, right? So there's a specific type of person that's going to give you money, Neil, right? $700,000, not a lot of money for what you're doing, by the way. Okay. No. But we need to make sure that we find that right type of customer, the right type of investor to make all these components work. Right? Was that helpful?
It was really helpful. I've got great notes, and thank you so much for
Excellent.
that.
Great to have you back. And I love the challenge again. Love what you guys are doing. And my kids are flying drones right now as well. So maybe they can join and get an internship with you once you get your business going. So,
We love to have them, and people love drones even better because they
yes.
love the space.
Excellent. Neil, always a pleasure. Thank you very much.